Welcome everyone to this installment of the Sustainability Speaker Series. For those of you that are familiar with it, thanks for coming back. For those of you who aren't, just a little introduction to what S3 is. It is an information sharing opportunity. We like to host virtual forums a few times a year where we have different topics of sustainability being discussed. So we do change topically. Today, we're going to be focusing on community sustainability efforts with a strong focus on livable arts in our communities. So I'm very, very excited to be bringing this meeting to you. We have a few expert speakers here today that I'm very, very excited about. As always, if you're interested in, participating in a future S3 meeting, or you can send me an email, or if you're just interested in participating in S3 meetings and you haven't before, please send me an email and I can get you on our Bureau's email list. My name is Gina Gamble-Cordo. I'm from the Bureau of Sustainability, and we have a few different programs like this as well, including our WasteWise Business Network that hosts virtual meetings that focuses specifically on waste reduction, waste reuse, and waste recycling. So again, if any of that interests you, please shoot me an email and we will get you signed up to receive information on all of our events. So without further ado, I will start to introduce our first speaker for today, Mike Haberland. Mike is an associate professor and county environmental agent for Burlington and Camden counties with Rutgers University Cooperative Extension. He has a background in aquatic ecology and joined Rutgers in 2009 after 9 years with the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. Mike works with programs to conduct environmental research appropriate to the needs of the community and implements on-the-ground environmental restoration projects. He teaches undergraduate courses in apiculture and introduction to river and stream ecology. His current research projects focus on aquatic plant management. This is a difficult word for me, Mike. Maybe you're going to have to help me out. Cyanobacteria? Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, pretty good. Cyanobacteria.
Cyanobacteria monitoring and treatment, pollinator habitat creation, implementing initiatives for watershed management and conservation, and hygienic honeybee queen breeding. While Mike is presenting, I will ask again that everybody please keep their microphones and cameras off, and there will be an opportunity at the end of all of our presenters today to turn on your cameras, turn on your mics, introduce yourself, and ask questions to our presenters. Without further ado, Mike, take it away.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Gina, for inviting me to present. I've been involved with pollinator gardens, rain gardens, for the last 14 years and find a lot of enjoyment with them. And you'll see, based on this presentation, I've brought a lot of it home. So first thing, well, let me say, Gina, everything's showing up okay?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. First thing I want to tell people is, lawns don't support pollinators. There's really no food in lawns unless you have clover, which the pesticide companies tell you don't want, so they encourage you to buy their products to get rid of the clover. Clover is actually good for your lawn. But in the US, there's over 40 million acres of lawn, and it is the largest irrigated crop in the country. So a lot of resources go into lawns, into turf grasses, but they basically, unless you need a lawn to practice soccer, do things with the kids, it's a great idea to reduce the amount of lawn and plant some native plants that can be useful for the environment. So our topic today was rain and pollinator gardens. So what I want to start out with here is a diagram showing a cross section of a rain garden. And a rain garden is simply a garden, but if we look here, so we're diverting water coming down our downspout. It doesn't have to be from a downspout. That's just usually the most convenient way for a homeowner to get the water over to the garden. And then you use some type of conveyance, an extension or a pipe. You could even make a fake stream bed leading into your garden.
Drilled into the concrete, into the blocks on each side,
And
with like it says, as far as branches, like two big ones, doing 18,
Kyle,
24.
it sounds
Yes.
like somebody does not have their microphone muted. If, again, we can keep our microphones off throughout the presentations. Thank you.
So if we look, the rain garden is a shallow depression. So 3 to 6 inches, but an important thing is we want it to have a pretty level bottom, because we want the water coming down out of our downspout to fill up and pool into this rain garden. And it's going to water the plants, and it's going to soak into the ground instead of just running off into the street and off into a stream. Now, if we just continued our grade from, instead of digging down to create this little ponding area for a rain garden, if we just continued that straight across, that would be our pollinator garden. So that's the only difference. And I'll have a picture of this in a couple slides. A real test that you want to do is, if you decide you want to do a rain garden, you want to make sure that the area that you want your rain garden to be in will infiltrate, will soak in that water. So you want to do a little percolation test. And this, you don't have to hire anybody for this. You just do this on your own. You dig down about a foot deep, and a shovel width wide, whatever shovel you have. Fill it with water, let it drain down, and you're going to check every hour how quickly it's draining. And what you're looking for is, you want your rain garden to drain at the rate of at least a half an inch an hour. Mine, in my yard in Gloucester County, drains at about 5 inches an hour. So, it's I'm surely meeting that criteria. But if you meet a half an inch an hour, your rain garden will be dry, usually within 8 to 10 hours. And that's because we don't want to make mosquito habitat. It's important that for either a rain garden or a pollinator garden, what is your soil type? Do you have sandy soil, loamy soil, or a clay soil? Because the difference is that those change on how fast the water is going to move through the ground, and also what plants are going to be more adaptable to those type of soils. You'd like to know the pH of your soil. Most crops, ornamental and lawn, prefer a pH of around 6.1 to 6.8. If you're growing blueberries or out in the pinelands, you want to have an acidic soil. So they like something down in the low 5s, which is pretty acidic. You can check the nutrients in your soil. And something nice about if you're using native plants, is they require little to no fertilization. If you want to know the nutrients and the pH of your soil, you can go to your county cooperative extension office and get a soil testing kit, or you can go directly to the Rutgers Soil Lab. It only costs $20, and it provides you with just a wealth of knowledge. So importantly, if we look here, it's telling you what your pH is. So notice this particular landowner, their pH is in the optimum range if they're interested in ornamental plants, such as our native plants. And if we look down here, it talks about, phosphorus, other nutrients that are in the soil. So this is very good. It tells you if you need to add anything. And While this is the first page is descriptive, there will be a second and sometimes a third page where they actually write out all the information for you, like if you need to add lime to raise the pH into the preferred area, it will tell you how much. So it's a very good source of information for the owner. Now, this is important. So especially if you're doing a rain garden and you're going to be digging in your yard, it's a great idea to call the New Jersey One Call and have them come and mark out that area that you're interested in putting your garden, where you're going to rototill, any ground activities where you're digging down into the ground. This is a free service. You should not hesitate to use this, because if you use them and they tell you everything's fine, there's nothing in the way, and you go down and start rototilling and you cut through some line, you aren't going to be the one responsible for that, because they told you that it was available. This did happen to me. We marked out a school and they came back and they said, we did the survey and no problem, go ahead and dig. And it was the first or second scoop going in. We were using a backhoe for this. They actually cut through the power line and shut down the entire school. The problem was they actually went to the wrong location to do the mark out and not the one we gave them. And so they were responsible. So this is a free service. These guys are running around every day, all day doing this. So don't hesitate to use it. So let's talk about the plants for the garden, because, this is, well, really my main interest. I really enjoy working with the native plants. We like to use native plants because look at this picture. Look at the roots. These are super deep roots. Now up here, this is your turf. This is your lawn. Lawn grasses typically have a root system that only goes down about 6 inches. And sometimes, if you're really lucky, you have a super hardy, more modern tall fescue, they might reach down to a foot. But notice we're going down 3, 4, 5 feet with a lot of these native plants. And this is great. So it makes them more hardier. They're more able to withstand drought. And it also, all these roots, all this root material is opening up pore surfaces and channels for rainwater to soak into the ground. So it gives better absorption of rainwater into the ground. So native plants are really good at this. Also, for the pollinators have evolved with them. So these are familiar plants and they like to use them. They know them. So you're going to draw in a lot of the native pollinators. They're also more disease resistant. And again, you need little or no fertilizer. So we've had our native gardens going for probably 8 years now, and we've never fertilized them. So I just want to show you, because there seems to be this misconception that native plants aren't attractive. And so, and I think landscapers just, I think they're at fault for this because they don't understand native plants. They don't want to work with them. They don't want to educate themselves or their clientele. But I've got 3 slides we're going to go through to show you a lot of different types. So what I'm showing you is there's color. There's a lot of color in native plants, but also there is structure. Look at these lizard tails. So these like a little wetter area, but they have this unique flowering up here adds a little uniqueness. The downy woodmint has this little pagoda style, very popular with early pollinators. They come out early in the spring. The same with the penstemon, the beard tongue. These also come out early in the spring. They're a great food source for bumblebees. And golden Alexanders, this is super early. They start blooming at the end of April, so they're very early. They last, the greenery lasts all summer long, and sometimes you even get a rebloom in late September into October from these. Just an absolute wonderful plant. Here we have sneezeweed and smooth asters. These actually are from my office pollinator garden that I planted, and they just stopped blooming about 2 weeks ago. So tremendously late bloomers. They go last October, September, October into November. So that's what you want to think about. Planting plants that a mixture of plants that bloom early in the spring. They bloom through it, others that bloom in the summer, and then also have plants that bloom into the fall. So, and again, think about structure. So here is one that my wife and I really get a kick out of. This is called Rattlesnake Master. The pollinators like it. It has these spiky balls as flowers. They're loaded with nectar. And the leaves on these are like a yucca plant, like a thin yucca plant. So it has a whole unique character. So something else, a little different structure in your garden, but is very beneficial. Asters are a mainstay for the fall garden, and something we encourage people to plant. Now, so here we are. We're on the left-hand side, we have our rain garden. On the right-hand side, we have just a pollinator garden. And the only difference between the two is if we look here, you can see our rain garden is a shallow depression. So this property slopes from right to left. So what we've done is we want to make that level bottom. We've dug this out a little bit, and then we've piled up some of the dirt to make a shallow berm on the other side. So we're trapping a lot of water in here. And in the pollinator garden, we don't create a depression. We just prepare the surface. Here I tilled it and raked out the grass, and we spread a little bit of compost through it because this was a sandy detention basin. And then we're just going to plant right into this. So here we are showing you, this is what we like to do. We use a lot of 2-inch plugs. So you could see this young lady here, she's carrying a flat of 2-inch plugs. There's usually, they range in number, but the average is about 50 plants per flat. So when you do this, when you use the 2-inch plugs, you're paying about $1.10 per plant instead of, oh, now it's crazy. A gallon plant now is probably close to $10. It's ridiculous. A quart plant is probably $6. When we started this, quarts were like $2.50. So you can get a lot of bang for your buck by planting with 2-inch plugs. And so I want you to take a look at this. So here we are. We had, a great group of school kids. We came out. We had 10 flats that we planted in here. And then after you put your plants in, you want to make sure you put some mulch around the plants. Be careful not to smother them. You know, this is going to help with water retention. So you want to make sure that, you know, your plants don't dry out, especially that first year, because, you know, these native plants are excellent survivors once they get their roots established. But that first year, they're spending a lot of energy getting those roots down into the ground. And the most important thing once you get your garden planted is to water. Water at least every other day. You know, sometimes you know, if you're in the middle of a hot spell, 90 degrees, maybe, you know, no rain, maybe you get out there every day to make sure, because remember, your plugs have really shallow roots right now. And we're going to bounce back and forth between this pollinator garden at different stages. But note here, so this is the one that that's at my office, and it was just that dirt. And so here we are. This is the first summer. So that this garden was planted in June. That's when we got the flats to put in here. It was a very dry summer a couple of years ago. We watered this every other day, and you could see. So this is mid-August, and you could see if you keep them watered, don't worry about fertilizer. Don't need fertilizer. They need water. So you keep them watered, and they will grow. So this is why we like plugs. So these plants have grown from a 2-inch plug into a 1-gallon size plant in about 2 months. So you save yourself a lot of money, but if you have that vision that, hey, if I water them, they're going to grow, this is what you're going to be rewarded with your first year. Now, this is the same garden. If I bounce back, so remember, this is mid to end of August. This is May of the following spring. Look at, you know, if you keep them, if you water them that first year, you get them through the summer, they're going to survive. They overwinter, and then they just explode. Look at this plant biomass that's here. Here we are in mid-May. We've got these coreopsis just going gangbusters, and there's the penstemon. I didn't realize the coreopsis were going to be this tall. I thought they were going to be a lot shorter, or I would have moved the penstemon out front. But you could see early on, we've got these colors. Out front here, because our plants did so well, we actually raised new plugs on our own. We collected seed, and we extended our garden out another about 8 feet. This is about 8 by 40 out front, and we've planted new plugs, which is what Debbie is watering. So I'm going to show you, this is our home garden. This is how we started about 8-10 years ago. Notice it was pretty small. We were getting our feet wet, literally, on how we wanted these to work. And you can see this dotted line back here. This is where we later put a pollinator garden. Here you can see the rain garden ponding. This is what we want it to do. Remember, in my yard, it soaks down really quickly. And here we are the following spring. You know, it overwintered. The following spring, it became quite lush. Now, here we are 2 years ago. So this is after multiple years of growth. Here's our pollinator garden now. Boom, it's going like gangbusters. And I put the date, so this is June. So look at, we have all this anise hyssop. We have some bee balm here. We have mountain mint that's in the mix. going really well. And then here is the rain garden, and it's full. It has about 8 to 10 different species in it. And in the beginning of September, the asters are all opening up. They're blooming. And look at this. We look out, we walk out into the backyard, and we have this wall of lavender purple asters that are growing. So your homework assignment is to go on the Pat Sutton link that Gina is going to provide you at the end of our session today, and look up why you should give a haircut to your asters. So that's your assignment. Here is our rain garden as of last May. Notice the golden Alexanders doing really well. The early bloomers are all, everything else is starting to grow up. We have some iris that are popping up. And notice that Debbie has already extended out another 1.5 feet and planted new plugs that will grow up and keep extending the garden out a little bit further. So I've talked to you about purchasing plants, but I want to encourage you, if you like gardening and you like growing things and you want to have some fun and test how green your thumb is to collect seed or purchase it and grow your own plants. It's very easy to do. I'm going to cover this through a couple of slides. There's some links in the material that Gina is going to provide you. I'm not recommending anybody. I'm just going to tell you that if you go to this prairiemoon.com site, there's a lot of information there, and something that I find is really important is the germination code. So this right here, this C30D, this is the germination code for Anise hyssop. So the Prairie Moon site has probably a couple thousand different native plants, and they list the germination codes, and they have this sheet that you can look at so you know what the code means. In this case, it means you cold stratify for 30 days, which means you put your seed in the refrigerator, not the freezer, the refrigerator, for 30 days before you sow it. And the D means, if we looked over here, D means these seeds don't want to be buried. You just sprinkle them on the surface and put them under the light. This is how we do ours at home. Here we're showing you, we actually purchased a packet of seeds from Prairie Moon. They have a lot of different varieties, so you can get some seed and try different ones, or you can collect seed on your own. We do both. We use coffee filters. You sprinkle the coffee seed onto the coffee filter, you fold it in half, spritz it with water to moisten it. Don't make it soggy, just moisten it. Then you fold it inside some paper towel, slide the seeds and paper towels into a 1-gallon Ziploc bag, and notice we've labeled the bag. We've labeled with the species. This one's blue stem goldenrod. We have the date. We expect that it's going to be ready. We have the germination code here, so it says C60D. So that means it wants to be in the refrigerator for 60 days. So Debbie's actually started this process at the beginning of December so that we'd get our 60 days in. Then you pop these, on a shelf in the refrigerator, let them and ignore them for 30 or 60 days, depending on the seeds. Then when you pull them out, you put them in your little flats, And if you notice, we've found that this works really well is to you can get these on Amazon, these little covers that keeps the soil moist, because until they germinate, the seed really likes to stay moist, not soaking, just moist and humid, and it works really well. Plus these lights, you get them on Amazon. You don't need to get fancy, super fancy, hundreds of dollars grow lights. You can get $20 grow lights on Amazon. That's what these are. They work just fine. If you're a commercial grower, you might want to do something a little different, but look at all these flats that I rate. This is my office. And then we also turned my son's bedroom. He's on his own now. It is now a winter greenhouse. And here you can see some milk. Which ones are these? These are swamp milkweeds, very important pollinator plant. You can see they're doing really well just in my office. And then I want to end my talk with, mentioning rain barrels, something for you to consider. We're not going to present about that today, but it's something that we've created. Gina is going to give you some links for. Debbie and I made some videos on how to build and install a rain barrel. And so that is something you might want to consider. Also installing, you can actually put the rain barrel, have the downspout divert into the rain barrel, and then have the overflow, which is this black hose, go into your rain garden or your pollinator garden. And that is it for me. I realize this was a whirlwind tour. There is so much material for you to look at. So I encourage you to, if you have an interest, you can contact me, look at the material Gina is going to give you, and enjoy your gardens.
Thank you so much, Mike. I know I, for one, was taking a few notes because I have a lot of work to do with my garden at home. So I very much appreciate your presentation. And as Mike said yesterday, when I was sending out the reminder link, I did include a few helpful links that Mike provided, and he sent even more over. So with the recording of this presentation, I will send you the recording, and then I will also provide those additional links so that you can check those out as well. I did notice a few questions come into the chat. I want you to know that I have looked them over and that we will be getting to them. As a reminder, we're going to wait until the end of all of the presentations, and then to try to simulate some of that networking experience that we miss out on with virtual meetings. I do encourage everyone at the end, if you have a question, please do turn on your camera and turn on your microphone at that point in time. And if you'd like, ask your question, in person, introduce yourself, let everybody be able to see your face, hear your voice. That's something that we unfortunately do miss with these virtual meetings. And then if you're not comfortable doing that at the very end, I will send those questions off to our presenters, and then we will hopefully get them answered. And then I'll be able to provide those Q&As to you in email form, along with those links and a copy of the recording of the presentation. So again, thank you, Mike. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce you all to our next speaker, Leonardo Vazquez. He is the Executive Director of the Northern New Jersey Community Foundation and has been helping enhance communities for more than 30 years. As an author, community economic development professional, creative placemaker, educator, journalist, and urban planner. He founded and directed 2 organizations that help grow the field of creative placemaking around the United States through innovative covenants and professional development programs. The National Consortium for Creative Placemaking and Creative Placemaking Communities. Together, these organizations engaged more than 8,000 people from the worlds of arts, cultural heritage, public policy, and more to explore ways to leverage the power of arts and cultural to enhance communities. And without further ado, I will pass it over to Leo.
Great. Thanks, Gina, and hello, good morning, everybody. Today I'm going to talk about the role of art and the power of art in enhancing environmental protection. So I'm going to just share my screen here. Okay. Everybody should be seeing my screen at this point. Is that correct? Yes. Maybe
Yes,
somebody
Leo,
just-
I can
yes,
see it. It's
thumbs
great.
up.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
we're going to talk for about the next 20 minutes about how you can engage arts and artists in your efforts to help build capacity and support for environmental protection, to address any number of issues. And we'll also talk about what the Community Foundation has done in this respect. This is an area of specialty of ours. But first, I want to tell you a little bit about the foundation. We've been around for 25 years. We were created in 1998 to bring people together and address quality of life issues in North Jersey, basically everywhere from Union County all the way up to the state line and from the Hudson to the Delaware. And we do a lot of work in placemaking, that is enhancing the spaces and places that we all share. And those places can be as small as a public park, as large as the entire North Jersey region. The idea is that we are about affecting systems. And so by focusing on place, we are affecting the conditions that people live in, as well as the systems that people live with. And we focus on three areas. We want to grow more creative and inspiring places where people can feel they can express themselves to a greater extent, and where they can be inspired to collaboratively work on creative solutions to problems. More places of belonging and opportunity, that is, places that provide success, more opportunities for success, and where people feel that they can feel connected to that place and to other people. And then, and what's most relevant to our work today, greener and healthier places, promoting environmental protection, addressing climate change issues, and promoting better public health through environmental protection. And a lot of what we do is about bringing people together. So that's why our guiding question is, what can we do together that we can't do alone? Now, before I talk about the arts in itself, I want to talk about what's going on in the background in terms of building public capacity, building the knowledge, the will to help protect the environment, to support environmental protection. There's a great theory about education. It's called Bloom's Revised Taxonomy of Educational Objectives. And it says that there are essentially three dimensions that we have to think about when we want to build capacity. One is cognitive, that is knowledge. And it's really different levels. So it's from not knowing anything to being a complete expert in the world. So we want people to have knowledge to be able to make informed decisions. An affective dimension is the emotional aspect of it. It goes from, do they care, do they not care at all, to they are so invested emotionally in this, whatever we're encouraging them to think about, that they are really motivated to do as much as they can. And then psychomotor is the ability to do things like riding a bike, learning to do the tactical work. So when we're thinking about when we're thinking about art, it affects all the three of those dimensions. And what can art what can public art do? Well, and public art and artists themselves. Well, first, focusing attention is so important. I mean, we talk about raising awareness, but a lot of people are aware of environmental issues, but there's so many things that people are thinking about. So art, getting people to focus their thinking on a particular topic, being able to share knowledge. We want to educate, but sometimes just doing this, the straight lecture doesn't work. Hopefully it works today because it's what we're doing today. But in terms of giving people interesting ways to learn about something, so it could be public art that teaches people about the fish that live in nearby, or about in the case of rain gardens, it could be public art that helps share knowledge about what is this rain garden, why do we have this here, why is it better than having a lawn. Certainly about generating public interest. It as you can see with this whale here in Europe, it is something interesting. It's going to draw people's attention. Another thing, and this is about the particular role of what we call social practice artists. Social practice artists are artists who focus on working with communities, that their art is not just about the product, but it's also about the process, about engaging people. And here, what artists can do is not only just do their work, but ask people to be involved in the creation, the development of themes, of the actual artwork itself. Perhaps you've gone to an event where there was a public mural and there was mural making, and you pick up a paintbrush and paint a section of the mural. That's the engagement. It's about the connections. The more people feel connected to something, the more likely they're going to help to nurture it. And then inspiring creative problem solving. One of the greatest power that we have with arts that we can all leverage is thinking in new ways. I mean, the only way we're going to be innovative in our solving problems is by being creative, is thinking differently. And so one of the things that we love about engaging with arts in any kind of work we do, whether it's environmental protection, public health, or anything else, is that disruptive quality of art, that it gets people to think in new ways, to consider things from different perspectives. So let me tell you a little bit about two projects that we've done this year, and one's in Oradell and the other is in Hackensack. Now, the first one, this is in Oradell. It's called Flood Theater, and this was done to address flooding. Oradell back in, I think, in Hurricane Ida, Oradell and New Milford, which are both in Bergen County by the Oradell Dam, they both experienced significant flooding. And so what we were trying to do is work on a project that encourages people to think about how can we prevent future flooding. And so we're using the art as a way to help people remember, to help commemorate what happened. Because why? Because people forget. And so the process of doing this began with, and you can start with your left, is engaging members of the public in telling their stories about being flooded, about what happened, what it felt like. And the artists encourage people to tell their stories and to share their feelings about it. And from there, the artist created essentially a centerpiece, a beacon there, which was called the Sad House. And this was a wood construction here that helps to tell the story of flooding in Oradell, and around it there were some other pieces that were about hope. There were eagles or butterflies. A lot of, we want to tell stories about what happened, but we also want to make sure that there's also stories of resilience as well. So as you can see underneath the sad house, we have a sign that tells people what this thing is, why we're doing it. We want to also, as part of the artwork, is bring people out, make it an event. And that encourages more people to feel connected, and also giving up people opportunities to share their stories. I mean, it's so important that we provide as many ways as possible for people to feel connected to their environment, and giving people opportunities to express themselves. It's not always going to be great art, and sometimes it's just words, but and of course, literature is itself an art form. But the idea is that people tend to nurture what they create, and part of that process is people feeling connected to the elements there. So that was Oradell. This was another project. This is in Hackensack. It's called Barrels of Art, and this is again another project to address flooding and to promote environmental justice in Hackensack. And the project overall has a number of pieces. One is to build an environmental justice alliance in Hackensack. We are eventually going to install a rain garden there. We're also doing public education around green infrastructure and environmental justice. And then the fourth piece here is the public art piece. And this was the first public art initiative. Here, what we did was we had 11 rain barrels custom painted by professional artists. And as you can see, these are really beautiful works of art. I'll tell you the truth, the pictures really don't do it justice. They are even more impressive in person. And we did a display of these rain barrels in a local park in Hackensack. If you've seen Cow Parade, it's kind of similar. We did, essentially a parade of rain barrels, and the idea was to focus attention on the value of rain barrels as a vehicle for environmental protection, for water storage. Doesn't really help all that much with flooding, but it helps a little bit. And the reason we wanted them to be painted rain barrels is we wanted them to be public art. We wanted them to be out in the community and be a part of the fabric of the community. And so what we did was, as part of this project, is we gave away each of the rain barrels plus 16 additional unpainted rain barrels, and want to thank AARP, which provided the funding through a Civic Community Challenge grant, as well as the Hackensack Rotary Club, which provided us funding to purchase the rain barrels. And this, as I mentioned, focusing attention, raising awareness. Well, this actually what caught the eye of a reporter for NBC News New York, and she then learned by wanting to do a story about the rain barrel, she also learned about what Hackensack was doing to address flooding in the city, what the city itself was doing to address flooding. And so she wound up writing a story, or producing a story, about the sewer separation project in Hackensack and other things that the city was doing to address flooding. So the artwork really, we leverage the artwork to generate more attention about other things going on related to this project. So and the next step, the next work of art that we want to do is some kind of public art around the rain garden that we're going to install in Hackensack, because rain gardens can be beautiful in and of themselves, but we also want people to understand why they're important, why it's better to have a rain garden than to just have a patch of grass, and much better than concrete, obviously. And so we want public art that can be both educational and inspiring, because what we hope that the rain garden would do is inspire people to build rain gardens in their own on their own properties as well. So we've worked with a lot of artists over the years, and in fact, the foundation is probably one of the leading producers of public art in Bergen County. And so what I want to do is just share with you a little bit about some of the lessons that we've learned about working with artists. And what you want to say is you want to plan several months ahead. You want to, because it's going to take time to engage the artists. Especially when you're working with professional artists, they want to do a great job. They want something that is going to be memorable. And it takes time to fabricate. It takes time to you just do the tactical work of producing the art. You want to engage the public in shaping the themes. At Flood Theater, it was about telling the stories. For Barrels of Art, we did a survey where we asked people about themes that they wanted to have on the rain barrels. So several themes, of course, there were nature themes, but also about promoting Hackensack or promoting their own culture. And the idea there is that if the themes if what's on the rain barrels are reflecting what people want, they're going to be more likely to put them out in a public area or in a highly visible area. And what we hope is that over time that'll encourage other people to say, oh, I want something like that. Or at least to just say, I want a rain barrel. The thing about working with artists is you want to give them some guidance, but you don't want to tell them exactly what to do, because they've got to really be emotionally invested in their work. So, really tell them about the goals, make them a partner in your work rather than merely you don't treat them just like decorators of public spaces. And finally, what I want to share is that the art itself can be beautiful, but plan on doing some kind of community event, something that celebrates the artwork itself. We did that with Flood Theater. Unfortunately, we didn't do that with the rain barrels. That was something I regret, not making it a community event, the installation of the rain barrels. But we are planning to do that with the rain garden that we plan to install in Hackensack in the spring. We want to have some kind of real celebration, because again, that provides even more opportunities for people to connect, to learn, to be inspired. So I hope this was helpful in helping you think about some work that you might want to do about engaging with artists. And if you'd like to get more information, of course, we'll be answering questions later on, but if you'd like to reach out to me, just send me an email at leo@nnjcf.org, or call me at 201-568-5608, extension 2. I look forward to speaking with you. So thank you very much, everybody. It's a pleasure being here with you today. And I'll hand this back to Gina.
Yeah, thank you so much, Leo. Thanks for being here today. And I did want to give Leo an extra special shout out, because Talking to him, speaking to him at the Sustainable Jersey Summit this past summer was actually what spawned the idea for this entire theme. So I'm really, really thankful for the work that you're doing. And yeah, thank you so much for presenting on everything. Without further ado, I'm going to kick it off. We're going to turn over our attention to Patrick McDevitt. He is an energy efficiency analyst at South Jersey Gas and is invested in renewable energy, sustainability, and electric cars. He founded Sustainable Monroe Township in 2013 and led the Sustainable Jersey certification process for 10 years. He is on the leadership team of Tri-County Sustainability, which is where I was lucky enough to meet Patrick through Tri-County. And he's an active volunteer with Bike Gloucester County, the South Jersey Electric Vehicle Club, and the New Jersey Electric Vehicle Association. He is passionate about building community, positivity, and peace. Take it away, Patrick.
Thank you so much, Gina. I really appreciate it. I'm just going to share my screen real quick, and you can tell me that I'm looking okay. Jump over here.
Looking
From
good.
the beginning. One more second, and I think we should be good.
Perfect. Yep.
So thanks so much for having me. I was really impressed with these first two presentations, and I'm happy to be able to participate as well. My presentation is going to focus on labyrinth walking and how we used a labyrinth in our community for community engagement. So first we'll talk about a little bit of history, and then I'll tell you the story of how our labyrinth came to be. So first of all, some history and description if you're not familiar, but a labyrinth is a meandering singular path leading to a center. They are an ancient archetype dating back over 4,000 years. They have been used symbolically as a walking meditation, choreographed dance, or site of rituals and ceremony, among other things. Labyrinths are tools for personal, psychological, and spiritual transformation, and also thought to enhance right brain activity. Labyrinths evoke metaphor, sacred geometry, spiritual pilgrimage, religious practice, mindfulness, environmental art, and community building. So again, all those themes that we've been hearing about from the other presentations as well. So just again, as a descriptor, here is a general diagram of a typical labyrinth. This one, as you can see marked, is a 7 circuit because there are 7, cycles you walk through to get to the center. There's an entrance, there's the lines and the path. So you walk on the path typically between the lines. And although this is a circular design, and this is the design we've used for our labyrinth, they do come in all different shapes and sizes. Also, ours, as you'll see in a minute, are made out of brick pavers into the lawn, but people make these on the beach out of leaves and rocks and found objects in your yard. You can do it. So they're really, it is a DIY appropriate activity, as well as more intricate designs. So now we'll tell the little story about our labyrinth. This was back in 2017. I became aware of this project online. It was called Labyrinth Around America. So here was this minister from England coming over to America, driving a rental car around different areas. And whenever he felt called to, he would stop his car. He had this labyrinth, was a canvas printed labyrinth. He would roll it out and just invite people to come walk on the labyrinth. So he would stop near, parks, churches, anywhere out in the community that he felt, would work. So I actually sent him a message on Facebook. And again, this was in 2017. His name is Clive Johnson. And then this was in April. So by November, he was coming through New Jersey, coincidentally. I said, I would love to invite you to come to our area and, lay out your labyrinth and host an event. So because our community garden that we had already established is on the site of our town library, we're big fans of the library and we do a lot of events with them. So we scheduled with our library that we would use one of the conference rooms inside. And again, this was in November 2017, so it wasn't really temperature-wise appropriate for the outdoors. We were able to host him indoors. He laid out his labyrinth. This is actually the picture of it inside our library. And we made an event and invited folks to come and walk the labyrinth. So that's how we started being in touch with Clive. And to this day, he does still remain a friend and a resource. And funny story that when he came, again, I didn't know how he was doing all this, but he would just, hopefully stay with somebody he met on the road. So I ended up putting him up on my couch for the night in my house when he came. And then after we did our walk, we went out and had some dinner, and it was just a really pleasant, interesting visit. And like I said, we're still friends now, and he's a great resource. So like I said, ours is on the site of our library. What happened a couple years earlier, we decided to establish a community garden. So this is one end of the field was still empty. So this is where we proposed to locate the labyrinth. So the library was happy to accommodate us for, many years before we got involved with the library. This was just an empty field that, the township would come occasionally and mow the grass. That was it. There was nothing going on. So after the garden was established and is still going strong, we decided to install the labyrinth. So again, from my online research, I found out that there was actually a group, the Labyrinth Society. So I did some research and found out that there was actually a labyrinth facilitator located in a town very nearby. So we got in touch with her. Her name was Diane. She was very gracious, came over and looked over our site, agreed this would be a great place for the labyrinth. We did a few, different visits and talked about the design, and then she helped us lay it out. So this is simply like landscaping flags and tape that we put out the initial design with. And then in the process of doing this, we got in touch with a local Girl Scout who heard about our project. She was interested to do this installation as part of her Girl Scout Gold Award project. So like we often see happen, once you start going down a road, things seem to fall into place. So we just kept going with the momentum and tried to get involved with as many people in the community as we could. And again, another thing that was happening was there's a movement that is installing peace poles all over the world to encourage world peace. So again, this seemed very complementary to what we were doing. So we actually had recycled some old fence posts, made them into peace poles, and now we have 4 peace poles surrounding our labyrinth. So we had done this before the labyrinth was installed, but again, we got involved with different areas of the community. We had a local pastor and church group came out and helped us bless the land. We had a drummer and had a little ceremony to install the peace poles. So that worked out great. And between the installation and currently today, we've had many different events at the labyrinth. We celebrate the solstices, which is coming up this month, the full moon, World Peace Day. We've hosted yoga events, drumming, meditation, fire spinning events. And, like I said, we've received great support from the community. And of course, folks outside the community as well that just hear about it and want to get involved and are interested. So it's been a really great vehicle to enhance our community engagement. So this is what our labyrinth looks like right now. Again, the pavers were installed in the ground. These are the peace poles. So when you contract to do the peace poles, you can see on the side of it here, it says, "May peace prevail on earth," lettered out on different poles. And we have that phrase in 4 different languages on different poles around the labyrinth, celebrating world peace. This is a little picture of one of the yoga events we had, a meditation and a sound bath, including a gong that we've done several times. And again, people really enjoy it. And then we incorporate the labyrinth as well. Okay, so here is a photo of one of our first events. So in December 2019, you can see this was just laid out with the tape still. We didn't even start the installation yet, but that was our first annual solstice celebration. So shocking to us, over 50 people joined and came out to the event. It started inside the library with a meditation and the sound bowls, and then we came out, walked the labyrinth, and had a few blessings and whatnot out at the labyrinth as well. And again, some of the folks that attended were from nearby Runnymede, New Jersey. And later on, we learned and worked with them. They were so inspired by our event, they decided to install a labyrinth in their town. And that labyrinth is now installed and hosting events over there as well. So it's been really great how the energy ripples out into the community, and we don't never know what's going to happen, but it's always interesting to see. This is again an example of the sound bath event. We do have an event coming up this month on the 12th. This is Joelle. She's our sound bath practitioner. She's going to come out and do sound bowls inside the library, and we'll have a finger labyrinth practice. And then you're certainly welcome to come outside and walk the real labyrinth as well. So if anyone's interested in our area, we're in Monroe Township down in Gloucester County, not far from Rowan University, and we'd love to see you at our labyrinth. Here is some links, of course, that will be shared afterwards. I want to point especially to this second one. There's a tool online that is the Worldwide Labyrinth Locator. So this is what I used when I was doing my research. You can click on this link. It'll take you to the site, and you can type in your zip code or your town and say what amount of radius you want to see labyrinths in your area, and it'll show you all the labyrinths around your town. So you might be surprised that you might have some nearby, and you go over and visit them. So this is my information down the bottom, and I appreciate the opportunity to share with you all today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And I do want to echo after that presentation that, again, everything Patrick was just presenting on is something that he does volunteer-based through Sustainable Monroe Township. If you're in a town and you're interested in joining your town's green team, I would love to get you connected to some folks from Sustainable Jersey that can help you out there. Or if you're in a town and you're not sure if your town has a green team, again, I would love to get you connected. I have some friends over at Sustainable Jersey, so we can figure out, what's your closest hub, something like that, because as you can see, these are great community efforts to bring knowledge of sustainability to your town. Okay, so at this point, I would ask for all of our speakers to turn back on their cameras and their microphones. And I would encourage anyone who's had a question throughout each of our presentations today to turn on your camera and your microphone, and then go ahead and ask your question in person and do a quick introduction, because we would love to get to meet you. Yeah. If not, I can scroll up and start to ask a few of the questions that have been typed. So I will start to do that. But again, I really would love some participation from you all. We had a question from Lisa Marie Shelley. She asked, are any of the plants that Michael was discussing toxic to household pets?
Sure, there are a few that you don't want your pets to chew on. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure what they are, but I know there are not that many that you have to worry about, but there are a few.
Okay, thank you. All right, David, you can go next. Thank you for turning your camera and microphone on.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank you, Patrick, for you're the one where we got the inspiration to have the labyrinth in Runnymede. We are also running a lot of events as well. But in answer to what Gina just said, I am also chair of a group called Towns Helping Towns, part of Tri-County Sustainability, and I provide mentors that will go into towns to help them become certified. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat, and anyone that has an interest, give me a ring up. And also, Leo, I had occasion to talk with you last year concerning Reimagine Runnymede. There were some real issues that we were having, and Mike had occasion to talk to you a couple of weeks ago concerning a tree planting program that we're doing in our town as Runnymede. So thank you all very much. Excellent presentations. I love it all.
Thank you, David. There have been a few other questions typed into the chat. So if you don't feel comfortable turning on your camera, that's okay. I'll go ahead and I'll start asking the questions then for you. We did have a question. Oh, Christopher, would you like to, you can ask, yeah. Absolutely.
Sure. Hey guys, Christopher Schmidt here from GZA. Question for you. So I'm involved with sustainable communities here at GZA, and I'm curious to see how I can get funding for my municipality clients and their volunteers to do some of this work. I know it's not hugely expensive work. You can use a lot of labor and equipment from municipal DBWs and whatnot, but is there any funding that's available out there for purchasing plants and rain barrels and the plumbing and fittings and things like that? Is there anything available from the state of New Jersey or filtering down from the federal government?
So that question would be for me.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm assuming in terms of funding and grants, I would suggest that you do turn to Sustainable Jersey, and if you're getting points then through your town, then that can grant you access to certain funding depending upon how many points that your town is earning.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll just add, in terms of funding, some of the best sources I think we found, your local Rotary Club or Elks Club might have special funds. I mean, it might be, it's not going to be big money. It'd be maybe, $1,000 or $1,500 at the most. You may also look to banks and to companies, local companies that want to support, if they're supporting other events in the community, that's something they may want to support. For our rain barrel project, we got funding from AARP through their community challenge grant. Now, I will tell you that getting a rain barrel itself, we sourced ours at about $65 a barrel. A typical 55-gallon barrel might be $65 to $100. The major cost, though, would be in paying the artists, especially when you're working with professional artists. And we believe very strongly that anytime you involve artists, you want to make sure that you pay them a fair rate.
Sounds fair. Great. Thanks, Leo.
Sure, of course.
Christopher, something else, like your water companies, like, I'm not sure where your area is, but, I'm in southern New Jersey.
Me too.
And New Jersey American Water, they run a program every spring where you can apply for grants, and they review your application if it meets their criteria, and they hand out a number of grants then.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's good to know. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your question, Christopher. Go ahead, Kai. Oh, you're muted, Kai.
You're muted.
That's my MO. Yeah, my name's Kai Osral. I'm the Bureau Chief for the Bureau of Sustainability. First of all, I'd like to thank Gina for doing a fantastic job with the Sustainable Speaker Series, putting this on and facilitating this for everybody. We really appreciate the work she's doing in this field. I have a question kind of for Mike. So, there are places that we have solar panels, right, in New Jersey, and solar farms. And there are other programs in other states like Massachusetts that actually have an incentive for pollinator farms in the same location as solar panels. Okay, so but one of the obstacles there is establishing the pollinator garden among those solar panels. So once you get through one growing season, you do the weeding, you go through another growing season, do the weeding. By the third growing season, maybe you don't have to do as much weeding, the maintenance cost gets low, but to get to that third growing season seems to be an obstacle for some of these solar farms in Massachusetts. I would imagine that might be the same for us here in New Jersey. Just wanted to get your take on what you see. Do you see that as being a true obstacle for these solar farmers in New Jersey trying to institute pollinator gardens among their solar panels, and whether or not, because we're not talking small areas, we're talking very large areas.
Mhm.
And, if there's associated costs with that, what may some of those be? So what would be our considerations when we talk to providers of solar energy and trying to convince them right now to do it without incentive versus trying to do it with incentive?
Well, I'm glad you asked such a simple question. Yes. Will that answer suffice? No. So sure, that's an incredibly complex set of circumstances. It's a great thing to move forward with, and I think there's a way that we could do something. Things I would look at are, what are the needs for the solar facility in terms of vehicle traffic in between and around the cells, because you don't want to plant New England asters and then have to drive trucks down there, crush everything. So I would want to find out the vehicle usage, what you'd need to do in between and around the cells. We'd also look at what types, there are different types of plants. I would tend, for solar panels, the setups I've seen, you'd want to use probably shorter. So you'd want to focus on shorter plants. You don't want them, to be really tall plants. I would do drought tolerant plants. And also think about maybe you don't, and not researching this and working with people, but maybe you want to put your garden around the perimeter of the solar field, so you're not going to drive through it. But I think there are plants that are more tolerant of having something drive over it. Some of these shorter ground cover types. But so that's what I would look at is, because you don't want to be crushed,
Right.
spend all this money.
Is it your opinion that it does take a couple of years to establish it, so that once it is established, you can let it do its own thing, or is the time frame for establishing it shorter than what I'm hearing from the things that have been done in Massachusetts?
No, I'm glad they told you it takes a few years. So that's more the reality. And so that's probably planting from seed. I'm sure that's what they did, because seed is certainly much cheaper for a large scale planting than the plugs that I like to use. Now, in the pictures, if you were sitting through my presentation and you saw the pictures, I mean, we crowded out the weeds that first summer because we planted from plugs, but we were able to keep them watered. And look how they grew. They took off, they really grew. If you're planting from seed and you're not able to water them, which I'm assuming is probably less likely on one of these large scale solar farms, growth will be slower. So you definitely want to plan for a minimum of a 3-year development time. You know, that's if I gave a link to a place called Prairie Moon, and they have a very good site, a resource site on there, and it will tell you year 1, you know, you probably are going in and you're going to mow because the weeds are the things that are going to really pop up. So you're going to mow at a higher level, like maybe 4 inches to get off the weeds. The second year, you're going to have a burst, but then it's going to be your third and your fourth years where the plants really take off. So yeah, it's challenging.
All right, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was just looking through the chat. Leo did address one of the questions that were directed towards him in the chat. I will go through the chat and pull out all of the important little bits and include that in an email to all of our registrants for today. And if you haven't checked out the chat yet, definitely do, because there is some chat networking going on and there's some useful information being shared. The only other question that has not been addressed yet, I do believe it is for Mike. One of my coworkers, actually, her name's Kate, she asked 2 questions. Do some plants require more frequent watering compared to others? And then also, what are some, if any, techniques for keeping a rain garden safe during winter?
So definitely regarding the water needs for plants, all the different plants have specific water needs. And there are ones that actually like to have their, what we call their feet in the water. So those are plants that grow right on the shoreline, maybe actually just on the into the water. Those they need to have that constant water source to be at their best. And then there are other ones that would die if you did that. So they like to be, you know, they're upland, what we call upland plants, and your bee balms, and their other plants like that that thrive in really dry areas. So you want to research for your area, you know, the type you want. If you're doing a rain garden, the nice thing about a rain garden is that all these plants can handle being inundated for a day with rainwater. So it's like rain garden's like a self-watering garden. So you don't have to put a plant into a rain garden that likes to have its feet wet all the time, because a rain garden isn't supposed to be wet all the time. It needs to drain down. You know, by law, it has 3 days to drain down. That's what we should aim for. Yeah, you know, depending on in your yard where you have, if you have a wet area, like next to my fence, is super wet. And so I've planted some of these really wet tolerant plants that like to be along that shoreline and in the riparian corridor, and they're doing super well there. And plus they're soaking up the water. Now for winterizing, I believe that was part of the question, winterizing the rain garden. You don't winterize it. The plants, they do their thing, they go dormant. It's up to you if you want to, you know, we tend to leave a lot of the material standing through the winter, especially if there are seed heads on it, because the birds will come in and they'll peck, you know, they'll go after the seeds that are in the standing seed heads. They'll hide in the stems during the winter for a little bit of shelter. And so it's pretty interesting in the wintertime. If you know, our pollinator garden is right outside our kitchen window, and we can actually see during the winter all these different migrating birds that come through, and they're hanging out on the stems and rooting around on the ground for seed. So you don't really have to do anything for a rain garden in the winter. And then in the spring, then you can trim it back.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
We are, yes, and this is Kate. Thank you so much for your question, Kate. If there's not any other questions that you would want to, log on and show us your face, we are nearing the end of our meeting time slot. So again, I will collect all of the important information that folks would want to read over, and I will send that out to you. You can expect that information, any links that were provided, emails, and then a recording of this presentation. Most likely by the end of the week, you will be hearing from me with all of that. So again, I wanted to thank our three presenters for being here today. It was a very interesting presentation. We have not delved into this topic before. I was very, very excited for it. I'm very, very thankful for having you all here today. And thank you for everyone for joining in. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks.
All right. Thank you so much. Right. I will go ahead and click the red button now. Have a
Okay.
great day, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.